We're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. Hi, welcome to the Wingmen Show. My name is Drew Brown. We hope to inspire, entertain, and learn something so we can all make this world a better place for our children. I'd like to introduce to you somebody who's my friend, my wingman, my main man, and I have a wingman watching my back, Dr. Paul Thompson. Hey, Paul, what's happening?
Oh, not much. Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Thompson, and you just heard from Mr. Drew Brown, Dark Gable. He's the American dream. He's the man, the myth, the legend, the pilot's pilot, the role model's role model, and most importantly, his royal fullness. How are you doing today, Mr. Dark Gable?
I'm doing great, and I'm glad I'm full of knowledge, Paul. I'm glad I'm full of knowledge. Well, we're going to have a great show right now. Check this out. Dr. Paul, I have a wingman story for you today.
What's it about?
Put it this way. These guys really put their heads together. They really, literally put their heads together.
Okay. Well, I'm cheating. I kind of know what it is, and I think that is a good introduction.
Paul, this weekend, Katrina and I, we went somewhere special, Paul.
Where was that?
We went downtown Atlanta, and they asked me to be a judge at the HBCU, the Historical Black College and University's Miss Queen pageant. So the prettiest girl of all the HBCUs, I shouldn't say prettiest, that's wrong. Smartest, most talented, and prettiest girl of all the HBCUs. So I was a judge at that contest, and it was freaking incredible.
And how did you get to be a judge? You got to be a special person for them to call you.
Wingmen Show, Paul.
Oh,
that's why we're special now. No.
Oh, okay, good.
Or we're badass Navy jet pilots, or it's just some of my history. I guess people know who I am and what I did, so they asked me to be a judge. Anyway, it was great, and these women were fantastic and beautiful, and it brought me back to the roots of my Black university experience. I went to Southern University of New Orleans. I am such a proud graduate of that historical Black college. I cannot tell you, it was the greatest days of my life. And since I talked to kids for the past 40 years about going to college, it's amazing. Those were the greatest days of my life. I'm telling you to go have the best fun you'll ever have. Mm-hmm. And the reason is not because it was Black.
Right.
It's because the culture was closer to what made me happy. Does that make sense? Really, going to a Black university, guess what you can't blame on your grades?
What's that?
Your Blackness.
Well, you shouldn't do that anyway.
Correct. I said, guess what you can't.
Right.
My point is sometimes that comes into question. And sometimes it's true. That's what I'm saying. In this case, it's not true. So you have to find another excuse.
Okay, but so you learned anyway, now you learned something too. You didn't just have fun the whole time, I hope.
Well, this is how it really happened. I went to New Mexico State University out of high school. I walked on the basketball team. I actually made the football team, but point being, it was the greatest time of my life, and I never went to class, and I flunked out with a 1.6 grade point average.
Okay, now you can't get too far with that, can you?
No. I went back to Brooklyn and I started Kingsborough Community College, learning, knowing I do have to do my schoolwork. I did my schoolwork. I played ball. I got a full scholarship to Southern University of New Orleans. When I got there, the one thing I knew is that I had to do my schoolwork.
Okay.
In order to continue to play ball and have fun. Okay. I mean, that's just part of it. And actually graduated summa cum laude.
Okay.
No, not summa cum laude. Cum laude.
Cum laude. Well, a lot of people graduate, thank you, laude. So you finally went to school, you did well, and you had fun.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And that's after getting punched in the face the first year. I had so much fun, and the punch in the face was you can't come back. Right. Bye-bye. See you later. It was nice knowing you. I mean, that was what pushed me over the edge. I knew I had to go to college. I had no idea it was that much fun. You had fun in Pittsburgh, didn't you?
Not a whole lot. I was pretty busy. It was okay.
But you did engineering. You were in engineering.
I was busy. I was maxed out, but I had great friends, and we had our own fun. But in terms of all the extracurriculars, no.
Did you join a fraternity?
Nope.
I was in Alpha Phi Omega. So I did the whole Greek thing too. And coming from New York like we do, we know nothing of that stuff.
Yeah, I watched these guys, with the bricks and all this other stuff. They were doing all these little dances, and this was interesting, I don't know how many of them graduated. I don't think it was too many, but they had a lot of fun.
Yes, and our hazing was very physical, more than drinking. There are some universities, they have a major problem. They think that the hazing is drinking whiskey and seeing if you can die or something, whatever.
Yes.
But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Black University, I'm the judge. We finally got Miss Black University, the HBCU. Dale Williams is a friend of Katrina, and she runs the whole thing out of Memphis, actually. So she's the reason that I really came.
Okay. The Memphis Mafia. Okay, now it's coming together. It's coming together.
I had a little juice there, baby.
There you go. You got a lot of juice.
Miss University of the Virgin Islands was the 2021 winner. She's beautiful, smart. Anyway, they were so talented. What I learned there was a little bit of the history of HBCUs. Did you know that the first Black college started in February 25th of 1837?
I didn't know the date. I knew it was in the 1800s.
That's incredible. Booker T. Washington went to college in 1865. I used to say that as like that was the first. Well, there had to be a college for him to go to. Anyway, it was Cheney University of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And it was started by a white guy, a Quaker. He was a silversmith. He had $100,000 when he died, and he left a tenth of it to a school that would teach Africans to become teachers. Mm-hmm. Funny that he didn't do it when he was alive, but he did it when he was dead. Anyway, they took that money. They went to this guy's Cheney's farm, and they started this university. And it was just so interesting to find out. Do you realize how cool it is to know where the history of Black people starting to learn how to read and write? Because that's why we made it. That's God dang it why we made it. We had a good education.
Right. Very few people would know that would have started in Pennsylvania, for example. I didn't know that until actually I met as I recall, the brother of the great grand Ayatollah, I believe, is a graduate of Cheney State. I never heard of it before. I met him. Never heard of it.
I think learning that history is just incredible. And I don't believe in Black history. I believe it's history.
It's history.
Because white kids need to know that. That is a testimonial to struggle and winning, being against all odds. Imagine being Black back then. They didn't want Black people to read. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they do to the terrorists now. They don't let the young men learn how to read, so they don't read the Quran. Anyway, good. I was the judge. It was a wonderful night. I thought my experience at a Black university was one of the best experiences I ever had. And I always said this, Paul, think of this. Do you know if all the high school Black athletes started to go to Black universities, they would be the number one universities in the country? It'd be Alabama versus Grambling.
In terms of funding and attention and TV contracts, which are very lucrative.
Correct. They'd be, all people care about is winning and great athletes. And if they all went to Black universities, those Black universities make a lot of money. Anyway, you know what my subject today is, Paul? What is it? Clutter. People who are messy. And I'm going to let you start off with what you think of people who just are nasty. I call them nastoids. They come from a planet in Astoria. I always said that God doesn't like litter bugs.
Right.
It makes me sick when I see people throw stuff out of the window. But anyway, what do you think about clutter and mess?
Yeah, I dislike it a lot. I'm old enough to remember Lady Bird Johnson. She was the wife of President Lyndon Johnson.
Yes.
And something she was credited with was the Make America Beautiful campaign. And I think primarily that was to cut down on people throwing trash out of cars, because everybody started driving and the highways were just littered with litter. all across the U.S. And I think that was actually pretty effective. They made little commercials, but people started to take care of themselves. But in terms of just general stuff, there are some folks who really can't control themselves. There are a lot of people with mental health issues that manifest themselves in different ways, and they accumulate things. And our culture is one that we like to have stuff, a lot of stuff. It's pushed on you probably about 3,000 or 4,000 times a day on TV. If you go outside, if you don't watch TV, the average images you'll see, if you just go around, is somewhere between, I think, 1,800 and 3,200 a day, all media combined. And we got all this stuff, and we're so unhappy. I've been places, and you have too, where people have like nothing, almost nothing, and they have a level of happiness people with 7- and 8-figure bank accounts will never have, which is strange. So we have all this stuff to compensate for things that are missing in life, I think. And you just have too much stuff. You don't know how to manage it. You're better off with less. I'm at the point in my life, I've been getting rid of stuff probably the last 20 years. Still have some stuff to go, but for me, less is better.
Well, but look how long it takes to learn that. You have to get a lot of stuff in order to know that you don't want stuff.
Yes.
The other day, my granddaughter was playing with, remember the iPods? I had the latest little fancy little iPod. I thought it was the greatest thing. It was kind of expensive, not a lot, but kind of expensive. It means absolutely nothing to me right now. Absolutely nothing. And years ago, if I ever lost that thing, it would be like the world went away.
Right.
But I come from Jewish immigrants also. I come from, and on my father's side, poor people. We were poor, both sides of my family. And my grandmother especially collected good stuff, new stuff. And I remember the closet that she had that had all the cool little new stuff. And I'm sorry to say, I've had that affliction my whole life. And I am getting rid. I want to minimize also. But there's another level of this that's really not funny at all. And I knew somebody. I went to their house. They had money. And I had never seen that. You remember Hoarders?
Yes. The TV show.
This was the most incredible thing I ever seen. And guess what, Paul? It was all new shit. It was like the biggest store in the world, except it was so cluttered, you couldn't take out your new stuff to the door. It was amazing. And this person on all other levels was completely normal.
On the outside normal, but something else was going on.
Something had to be. I'm talking about a past being messy. And talking about being messy, this is really interesting. They did a study. People who are real fussy about messy and being perfect, cortisol starts dropping in them. A lot of housewives, they have to make everything perfect because they have this image of a 1950 kitchen and a 1950 home that's perfectly settled and they're trying to keep up that image, not only for themselves, but for other people. And what happens is they have stress. Just like you said, they have $1 billion, but they have stress because the flower vase is a little dirty. Mm-hmm. So, being messy, that comes in all levels, but I am with you 100%. I was looking through all my stuff, and I don't usually think about my demise, but I told you I have 34 more hot summers to go. But I was looking through all my stuff, and I said, my poor kids, I wouldn't want them to go through this shit after I'm gone. I'm not kidding. Right. I wouldn't want to put that burden on them.
Right. And that's the way my mother was, actually. Yeah, that's the way you should be. Nobody wants all this junk. I got out of kind of materialism fix. Actually, after a car accident, I used to be, kind of meticulous about my cars for a while. And then I was in a wreck that, could have killed all of us. And the car was just mangled. And so the thing was, they took the car in, the car was fixed perfectly and actually ran better after, what could have been a near fatal accident. And I saw with all that twisted metal, that can go in a second. There's all kinds of cars. There's lots of stuff. And if you lose your stuff, they got plenty more. They're looking for people to unload stuff on the West Coast. Don't get wrapped up in it, but we look at it as like almost like as a god. Stuff is a god. Like, no,
yes.
There's plenty of it. you were important. You were the god. Can't just make another you. We can get all kinds of Rolls Royces and Sherman tanks and F-35s, if we need one. But there's just like one you.
Are you trying to make a little hint towards me?
Oh yeah. You're special. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that you ever heard of George Carlin?
Yes.
You remember his bit on stuff?
I think I
He
do.
said
Yeah.
you work all your life to just get stuff, and you buy a nice house and you fill it with stuff, and you do really well, and you fill it with so much stuff that you have to buy a bigger house. You know why? So you can put more stuff in it.
That's right.
How about this, Paul? How many people each year lose everything in tornadoes, in hurricanes, in these forest fires? I mean, you go from everything to zero.
Zero.
You know how people run and go get their pictures.
Yeah.
God bless, now we can put them on the cloud. But there are people who get wiped out. And guess what? They survive.
They survive. Yes.
And guess what? In a few years, they come back. And they probably don't hold on to their stuff as tight as they used to, just like you did with that car story you had.
Yeah. And near-death experience will change things.
Right. Dr. Paul, when we flew jets, we loved it. We loved the excitement. It was like the greatest roller coaster ride in the world. We trained very hard to do all of that. It was very exciting. It was like top of the line. Right. And when we were going through, there were drones. And I'm talking about airplanes that were controlled remotely, not the kind of little helicopters I'm talking about that everybody has. I'm talking about real drones. And now there are real drones. And these real drones carry missiles and bomb places, and they're really accurate. So where I'm going with this is, first of all, let's do flight training. Because what's happening now are guys and girls are going into the Navy and the Air Force and the military to learn how to fly, and they're putting them, after they learn how to fly, they put them in the back of a truck and they now pilot a drone. We at FedEx, we heard it all the time that they're going to start having, remember we had 3 pilots in all the planes? And now they're down to 2.
Right.
And I guarantee you it's going to go to 1.
They're
and I'm going to guarantee you one day it'll be all remote.
Yeah. The joke was a long time ago was, eventually they'd be down to 1 pilot and a dog. The pilot, basically, and the dog's job was to bite the pilot if the pilot touched anything. That's an old joke from a long time ago. But it seems to be, you wouldn't use a dog. You'd probably use some kind of electronic zapper to do the same thing. Keep them awake. Right.
Well, remember we had in the jet, if you didn't touch anything for a certain amount of time, something would happen.
Yeah, you're right. It's true. It would start
the exact opposite happen.
Pilot input, or you stay awake.
Touch something. God.
Yeah,
and that's all you had to do to stop it was touch anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, drones. Let's get back to war. Because that's what we learned what to do. Why would you send a pilot in to bomb something if you could send a drone in to bomb something?
Right. Yeah, it's happening. It's done. As far as the Navy, I don't think the Navy's doing that yet. I think all the drone pilots, military-wise,
Air Force,
primarily Air Force. Although the Navy is looking to train people to be drone operators. I don't know if they're going to be pilots per se, but they want folks to do this refueling thing, the Navy refueling, because there was a big accident too in the Marine Corps. Involved F-18. Guy did something. He was tanking off of a C-130. They collided. Everybody died. There was another one as an F-35 that collided with, I think, a refueling tanker. Don't know the situation there, but the thought was if the tanker was just an autonomous vehicle, maybe I don't know if it would have been hit or wouldn't have reacted. But if you took part of the humans out of the equation, it might make it safer. I don't know about that, but that's where it's going.
Well, they predicted that soon pilots will be at their house flying FedEx packages from China to Memphis, doing it on their couch.
Yeah, it may not be. It might just be a bunch of middle schoolers who are good with computers, and give them some coupons to Pete's for.
Why do you even need to know how to fly if you can work a video game good?
Yeah, right. So
Wow.
that's
So
good.
talking about war, though, I do have a PSA. We now have a PSA from the Wingmen Show. The answer to world peace is being nice. The answer to world peace is being nice. You don't have to agree with somebody, but you can always be nice. And guess what? You don't kill people if you're nice to them. That is your PSA from the Wingman Show.
Okay, we'll do this at the next G8 summit and see how that goes.
But it's the truth.
That's true.
You know, as simple as that may seem. You talked about your tankers just a little while ago, and I want to tell you a tanker story that happened to me. I was a last night tanker, which means off the carrier, you are the last airplane to come aboard. If you run out of gas, there's nobody to give you gas. You're done. So it's called the last night tanker. And it's not something that anybody really loves doing. So anyway, I was last night tanker. And there was an A3 up there. And I started off with the drone pilot things because in the Navy, as you know, the number one pilot in the class got to get his choice. But after that, it was whatever the Navy needed.
Right.
So this poor guy, a young pilot, got the A3, which was made for nuclear weapons, a big ass old airplane, too big to be on an aircraft carrier. Anyway, I don't even know what the missions was. I'm sure you do, but it was, I know it could carry a nuclear weapon. Just put it that way.
Right.
It was a very hard airplane to bring aboard the aircraft carrier. And that's why they put the best pilots in there. So anyway, I'm the last night tanker. The pilot is a nice Jewish kid, believe it or not, from New York. And we had lunch that day. And he was brand new. He's a nugget. We call brand new pilots nuggets on their first tour of duty. Anyway, he's a nugget. So he was flying. I was a last night tanker. I'm up there just circling, waiting for everybody to come down so I can come down. Well, this guy in the A3 was next to last to me, and he could not get aboard. What he was doing was he was getting low in the middle, and that means approaching the aircraft carrier. He was getting a little low, and so the LSOs, the landing signal officer, would say, power, power, power. He would overpower it. He would start going high, and he would jump the wire every single pass. So he went up, and he got the rest of my gas because he couldn't come aboard. Anyway, they called me down because I had no more gas. I gave him all the gas. So I came down, I landed, got out the jet, and proceeded to watch him try again 3 more times. Same pass, always low in the middle, too high at the end, and skipping the wires. They put out the barricade. This is big time. This is really, you think you're watching a movie now. They put out the barricade, and the barricade is for if you don't have your hook brakes or you cannot land normally because you can't grab a wire, it will catch you in a net, right?
Yes.
You know, all this stuff. And I'm trying to explain it for people who don't understand. Anyway, it's a very dangerous thing. So this guy was making his approach, and he made it exactly the same way, Paul. And so this means that when he came and hit the barricade, he was too high, so his wheels hit the barricade. It caught his wheels. He nosed over, and he went over the ship, and 6 people died. What really, really bothered me more than anything is that common knowledge said that this kid can't come aboard, let them all jump out next to the ship, get them, and lose the airplane. But this tour on the Nimitz was the first one of Super CAG. In other words, there was another captain on the ship that was equal to the captain, so they could all make admiral. That's the reason that you become a captain of a carrier. Anyway, this was that first initial tour, and they didn't want to lose an airplane. So instead, they lost the airplane and 6 men. And that was it was tragic, and it was tragic to watch. And that's my tanker story, Paul.
Oh, that's very sad. Yeah, the A3. I don't think you could have jumped out of the A3.
Yeah, you could have pulled up next to it and just jumped out, not punched out.
Just
You could have open the door, put it on autopilot, and start jumping in the water. Like slow it down as slow as it would fly. It was explained that, whatever. But guess what? You have something to bring me up. I got to tell you, one of my bestest friends, Mike Prock, he told me the best thing about our show is that when he finishes listening to it, he feels better. And that's what I think that's the greatest compliment that we could have. So I'm not going to leave us with that. But I do want people to know how dangerous the world was that we flew in. And that's why that's why I talk so much shit. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, no, you're talking about life-changing events, and I'd seen my share too. But I do have, if I can get with a wingman story, I think this is uplifting. Sometimes you can have a wingman or a group of wingmen from a very unlikely source. And here's a story coming out of British Columbia at a place called Golden Ears Provincial Park in British Columbia. There were a couple of sightseers in this park and young men who were doing something they weren't supposed to do, and they got themselves in a bad position. They ignored some signs and warnings and found themselves next to a raging river, raging waterfall that was super powerful. It was about to take them. And they realized they made a mistake by ignoring the signs, but they couldn't get up and there was nobody around. Luckily, there were 5 young men from Calgary who just happened to be
Calgary, Canada?
Yeah, Calgary, Canada. Yeah, British Columbia, Canada, everything in Canada. They were touring. They were on a trip and they were hiking. And they saw these guys at the raging river and they saw that they were stuck. Well, the story's not quite right. Actually, a woman, that one of their friends, a lady, approached them and told them about these guys who were stuck. And they went and took a look and they saw they were about to be swept away and they wouldn't survive. So they didn't know how to get to them. And one of the members of the group said, hey, why don't we use our turbans? They were of Indian background. They were Sikh Indians, Sikh students. And essentially there were 5 of them and they tied their turbans together and some other clothes and they made a rescue rope. And they threw it's like 30 or 40 feet of rope and turbans to these guys and got them out one at a time where they were shaking. Saw the video of it. And how much is a turban? Average turban, I think, is 6 yards long and 2 yards wide. I guess it must be pretty strong too. So if that's the average, and you multiply that by 5 and throw in a jacket or something, and they basically pulled these guys to safety. And it was such a heroic act that those young men were recognized by the local municipality in British Columbia and also in Calgary when they came back home. And they're young guys. They look like they're in their 20s. And they just said, one of the group came up with the idea and they did it and saved 2 people.
That's incredible. Paul, can you explain to us a little bit what a Sikh is? Because a lot of people think that they're Muslims or Arabs.
They're different. I think they originated in the Punjab part of India. They're not Muslims. I guess there's some similarities in terms of the way they look and they dress. The head wrapping might be similar to what you might see in Afghanistan or some Muslim sects, but they're a different group. I think they can drink alcohol, but they have to watch it. Many are vegetarians. They don't have to be vegetarians. It's an individual choice. But they tend to have the head wrappings that are, to me, they're very tightly coiled and indistinctive. I can see it.
Oh, no doubt about it. And the reason I'm saying that, Paul, is because we were blessed to grow up in New York, and we saw all types of people all the time.
Yes.
But there are so many people in our country that make decisions and have values and all this, and they haven't ever left their counties. They don't even understand some of the things that are out there in the world. And Mark Twain once said it, if you don't travel, you haven't turned the first page of the book of life.
That's true.
So in order to make all these opinions, political, religious, all your spirits, all your decisions have to come from information. And the more you travel, the more information you have. People don't realize that's why education is important, because you just have more information to make choices from.
Right. So get out there and travel. See the world if you can. Get your COVID shots and take a trip.
You got your third, didn't you?
Yeah, I got the booster last week. So who knows how long it's good for, but
I know how long it's good for until they tell me I need to get another one.
Yeah, that's what the pharmacist told me.
I'm not dead yet, and I'm not about to.
Right.
I'm not about to die. There are a lot of people dying. There are a lot of people suffering right now, and there are a lot of people who just don't give a shit. So guess what? We give a shit. Exactly. I love you, Paul.
Love you too.
I'm glad you give a shit.
Yes.
Once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend, thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.